think that, Michelle, if I go in order of the items in the packet, is that the same order they're on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing we have then is a then and now certification for the Carroll County Common Pleas Court in the amount of $7,298.46.
This then and now is based on us paying them SOAR funding back to October of 2019. They were very slow in getting their billings in, and I did not have a purchase order open over the end of the year. So that's why I had to do it then and now to cover those October, November, and December. So it's not for the full amount because that covers a time period from October to September 29th.
Do we currently have these funds, even though this was from 2019, we have those funds still available?
The period for the grant was like September 30th, 2019 through September 29th, 2020. We didn't receive billing, a proper billing from them in a timely fashion. So this is our partner share, and we are paying for things that were still back in the previous calendar year. This was a super blanket purchase order for the SOAR project, and you can't carry a super blanket over the end of the year. So that's the purpose for the then and now. But I think that they're going to be on track now. At least I'm hoping, because I think there's going to be other individuals that are also involved in it, and it's going to get straightened out, and the funding or the requests are going to be more regular.
Okay, but I guess I'm not sure if my question was clear. Since that grant really ended in September, did we have to send the money back, or are we still able to pay for this out of those funds?
It's a federal fund, so it's reimbursement. So they have to make the expenditures, then we request the reimbursement. I believe that the cutoff for reimbursement was probably maybe just last week. So they give you plenty of time, like 45 days after the end of the period, to continue to draw down funding without losing it, because it takes that long to get their billings together.
All right, so we're okay with that. Okay, so we would need to have a motion and a second to approve the then and now certification as described on page 11.
Be happy to make the motion.
Jennifer, are you able to second that?
Yes, I can second that. Sorry, I was chewing a carrot.
Oh, no, that's okay. Mark, you and Jennifer are only two people to make motions and seconds.
That helps to know. I'll time my chewing accordingly.
All right. All those in favor, please. Do we need to do the roll call vote? We can see you both, so just say yes or show your hands if you're good. Jennifer, okay, thanks. Okay, motion carried. Moving on, we've got the list of bills for November on pages 12 and 13. Are there any unusual expenses or things that you would note on those, Michelle?
Well, you'll see that there are two additional bills from what you received in the packet yesterday. So those are highlighted. They're on page 2. It has to do with the Common Pleas SOAR money, and then also an additional rental assistance. Well, probably the only other thing that you wouldn't see on there normally, or we'd only see annually, is on the first page, 864 insurance. We're paying our property and liability insurance this month for the year to Westfield.
That's property insurance, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone else on the committee have any questions about any of the bills for this time period?
I just have one question. I see the travel reimbursement, and that's over like a 5 or 6 month time period. Is that typical to wait that long to reimburse employees for their travel cost?
What I think is happening, and the same thing happened to me, is that we were working remotely and getting our travel reimbursement in on a monthly basis just didn't become a priority. Typically a month or two is what we would turn in, but yeah, that's a good chunk of Mike's. That had to do with a lot of our levy stuff too.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Sure. Well, and I think that that expense is all occurring within this current fiscal year. It's not as if anything is coming from fiscal year 20.
Okay, and Michelle, that new Philly school district payment of $42,000, was that part of the grant that we talked about last
Yes.
last meeting?
K through 12 prevention, right? We had awarded 3 schools last board meeting, so we have New Philly this, and I believe we still have 3 outstanding schools. I'm not sure, we haven't heard from them yet as to billing, but we're on it.
Okay, okay. Well, if there are no other questions, we need a motion and a second to approve the November bills in the amount of $362,740.71.
I will make that motion.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? No. Okay, moving on down, we're looking at the balance sheet for that ends October 31st of 2020. And that would be on page, it looks like 14 of your packet, and on page 15 and 16. It looks like if you look at the total revenues percentage and total expenditure percentages, they're both right around 1/3 of what we expected. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, you're on the revenue and expense report. Mike, can
Yeah.
you bump it up a little bit? Mike? No? Who's got control of the? Okay, it's page 15 and 16.
We lost Mike for some reason.
You are correct. We have,
There we go.
we're at about a third of the way through the year, and that's pretty much where we are right now.
Yeah, so you feel like we're on target for most of these areas?
I do. Now, there's probably some other funds that we're going to be awarding the agencies, so there's a potential that when they bill those, they'll be billing a larger chunk to recap from the beginning of the fiscal year. But at this point, we're pretty much right on target.
Okay. Is there anything that you wanted to tell us about I guess that would be page 14, about our total cash and accounts receivable and liabilities and reserves?
We still have not increased our 21-day operating reserve until we have all of our funding. So once we get all the funding in, then we'll know how much we need to move out of unappropriated to have our reserves. Right now, I think we're only about 30,000 off based on what we have to work with. But with additional revenues, that'll increase the 21-day reserve. So when we get all of our funding, which hopefully we can determine that soon. If it's not December, it'll at least be by February, and get that reserve amount in there. We have plenty of unappropriated, so it's not as if there isn't reserve in addition to the 21-day reserve.
Okay. You're not worried about us being able to cover that?
No, because we would, if we didn't have any unappropriated reserves, yes, I would worry.
Mm.
But we're sitting pretty well right there.
Okay. Mark or Jennifer, questions?
In looking at this, I saw the ambulance expense, and that reminded me that about a year ago when I first joined the board, we were talking about changing our ambulance our transport providers. And we talked about the fact that we felt we would save money while at the same time actually increasing the quality of the service. Has that panned out? Is the quality just as good or better? And have we actually realized a savings, now that it's been roughly a year, give or take?
So here's what I'm going to say about that. We are still working with Smith, and the other company is doing some transports as well. The big game changer has been when Cleveland Clinic started to assess and place. Smith did not bill the ADAMHS board for hospital transport when the clinic placed them. When CMH placed them, they billed the ADAMHS board. So the fact that only 5% of our ambulance funding has been billed down is solely related to the fact that the clinic is now placing individuals.
Okay, thank you.
Once again, that's just ludicrous. I mean, the whole thing that they were billing us all this time for those ambulance transports, but if the originator of the request is a different agency, they bill their insurance. Anyway. Okay, are there any other questions about the balance sheets?
Julie, you're coming in very faint to me. Is everyone else losing her a little bit?
Okay, I'll try to talk louder. Did that help?
You were fine earlier, Julie.
I turned my volume up. I don't know if that'll help.
We'll just listen closely.
Okay. Balance sheets, any other questions on that? On pages 12 through 15? Or maybe it was 14 through 16. Sorry. Okay, if not, we need a motion and a second to approve the statement of revenue and expense and the balance sheet through October 31st as presented to us.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I can't hear anyone. Maybe you can't hear me.
Oh, no.
We can hear you now.
Uh-oh.
I cannot hear any of you talking.
We're not talking right now. Can you hear us now? Nope.
Oh, no. We can hear her, but she can't hear us.
Did you press mute accidentally? Well, yes, that won't do any good either, will it?
All right.
Back.
Did that motion carry?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's another item on the agenda for some budgetary adjustments, and those are noted on page 18 if Michelle wants to talk about those. And I'm going to sign out and try to sign back in.
Okay. All right, on the budgetary adjustments, the first one are for some additional appropriations in some of the funds because we need to increase them for expenditures that we're anticipating potentially next month. We don't have enough to cover everything. So I'm asking for these to be appropriated from the unappropriated line item. We're not increasing our revenue in any way. We're just moving it from unappropriated funding up to appropriated funding so we can spend it. The two items after that are fund advances. The first one is for fiscal year 2020. Each year we advance $87,500 from the general fund into our AOD SAPT fund. And we advance $50,000 into the women's set aside fund. In order to do that, we have to pay it back. So this is the payback from those two funds to the general fund. And then right below that is the fiscal year 21 federal fund advances, reversing that same thing. It's a paper trail for the state auditors. That's all it is. It's just, we have to make sure it goes in and out within each calendar year. And that helps us pay if we aren't getting our allocations quickly enough and as the agency is billing. That just gives us time to be able to pay them.
Any questions for Michelle about those? repayments and advancements.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Jennifer.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, motion carried. And I think that wraps up all the items on the agenda for the budget committee. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Brad, just for a quick clarification, since we had a motion and a second within the committee and the motion passed within the committee, that motion can come to the board without a second in the actual board meeting, correct? They just bring it on and vote, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
The same thing is indicated at the bottom of the agenda. At the bottom of our agenda, there's this little tiny print that indicates it there too.
Okay.
I think that was a Molly Doughton request.
I think so.
I think that's
was
been
very-
there since the 80s.
Mrs. Doughton was one of my teachers.
Wow.
Yes,
People
socks
that-
and
yeah.
sandals.
What's that?
Socks and sandals.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Goodness, Mrs. Doughton.
All right. Well, I guess that concludes our meeting, and I will hopefully see you all at the full board meeting here in the next 5 minutes.
Can we just stay on here or do we have to clock out and clock?
No,
back?
there's a different meeting link for that one. Should be in a separate email.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.